A teenager shot just blocks from our TV station.
I think that's sad.
It's not a shock to me.
We have team coverage on the impact juvenile crime is having statewide as the calls for change grow louder. Grieving parents furious over the state of juvenile crime in Maryland 4 years after a teenager killed their daughter.
Something needs to be done.
New tonight, the message they're sending directly to Governor Moore. Then two top prosecutors teaming up to address this crisis.
This is what the people have told us they want.
The bills they're proposing to keep kids out of trouble and communities safe. The PSC approves a rate hike for your BGE bills. How much more you could have to pay to keep the lights on. Two signs in support of Israel are slashed and destroyed.
I think someone clearly slashed with some anger.
Why the rabbi thinks the vandal was sending a message.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
We are following breaking news. Governor Wes Moore's office confirming a long-term agreement between the Maryland Stadium Authority and the Baltimore Orioles is finished and being advanced for approval.
Now, the Stadium Authority will have a special meeting on Monday to go over that agreement and finalize it. It will then go to the Board of Public Works for final approval.
The Orioles lease at Camden Yards expires at the end of the year in little more than just 2 weeks, so they kind of were down to the wire with this one. But again, the big news tonight, Governor's office says Orioles lease is finished and they will get, hopefully, their approval they're looking for come Monday. Rocco DeSangro will have more on what we're learning tonight coming up on Sports Unlimited. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mary Bubala.
I'm Kai Jackson. Words turning to action for Maryland prosecutors. Two, in fact. They plan to lobby state lawmakers to change juvenile crime laws.
You can't have rehabilitation without accountability. And we want to ensure that our laws focus on accountability.
So we want to make sure that, one, we hold young people accountable, but we also protect young people from some of the individuals that are criminal predators.
Their firm message coming on the heels of an exclusive interview with Fox 45 News as we continue to see young people caught up in crime. Tonight, we have team coverage of the concerns spanning the state as two teens are shot in Baltimore and a Harford County family calls on the governor to take action on youth crime.
We begin with Mackenzie Frost and the demands from top prosecutors ahead of the next legislative session.
There are several different pieces of legislation included in this package, but it all comes down to accountability and ensuring young people face consequences. For months, there has been frustration from prosecutors around the state.
Some of our laws that have been passed recently do make it a little more challenging for us to hold them accountable.
As well as police and parents.
They catch these kids, and then 2 hours later, they're released.
All taking issue with the state's juvenile justice laws. One preventing kids 13 and younger from facing nonviolent misdemeanor charges, and another requires an attorney to authorize law enforcement during questioning of a young person, even if the parent approves. Now,
in so many ways, I feel like I'm returning home.
State's attorneys from two of Maryland's largest areas, Baltimore City and Prince George's County, say they've heard those complaints.
We spent a lot of time over the spring, the summer, and the fall talking to members of the judiciary and the Senate, trying to have as much dialogue. So I think there's an appetite for change.
That's why we are asking the legislature to revisit our juvenile statute.
The pair sitting down with us for an exclusive interview to review the proposals. It includes extending probation for young people, allowing the state's attorney's office to get involved in handgun and theft cases earlier, and requires an attorney to be in person during questioning with law enforcement.
Where the attorney who's physically there will listen to the information, listen to the evidence, and will have the dialogue with the child and the child's parents to do what's going to be best for that child.
When it comes to the length of probation, Bates and Brave Boy both agree it's not long enough, especially when kids have to wait months to start a court-ordered program, which means sometimes those kids don't complete it.
That's a problem, and that's a very real problem because there's not enough resources available through the Department of Juvenile Services. I think we have to support and work with DJS. They are the experts on children here in the state of Maryland.
Why do you think extending the length of probation will impact juvenile crime?
Well, because it keeps people, make sure they're held accountable.
The two also want the Department of Juvenile Services to notify the courts when a kid violates their probation. Right now, they say that isn't always the case.
Once they've been violated, then we'd like to have the judge, the judicial magistrate, make the determination whether to bring them in and talk to them, or if they violate and the court feels that, hey, you know, we must detain them to get their attention, that's the court's prerogative. But we want to make sure that DJS reports these violations to the court as quickly as possible.
The prosecutors say they are hopeful there's support from lawmakers in Annapolis to get these proposals across the finish line.
Our package, we think, provides both help for our communities to keep people safe, as well as hope for individuals who need that second chance.
At the end of the day, we serve the people. And this isn't just what we want. This is what the people have told us they want.
The package also calls for expanding the state's organized crime rings, which both prosecutors say could help go after the growing trend of organized carjackings that we're seeing across the state. In Baltimore, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Now, Ivan Bates and Aisha Braveboy are two of more than a dozen prosecutors across the state urging Annapolis to take action. They say their hands are tied by the current juvenile crime laws.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions. I understand the legislators and the recent legislation that has passed. They don't want youth to grow up and have criminal convictions or to be part of the criminal justice system. But really what we're seeing is just delaying this delinquent behavior that turns into adult criminal behavior. And we need to get to these youth sooner.
Well, crime also impacting young victims. A 17-year-old was shot this afternoon in South Baltimore, and a 16-year-old was shot in Medfield, just blocks from our studio in the middle of the afternoon. Fox 45's Keith Daniels joins us live with one of the latest incidents involving juvenile crime. Keith?
Well, Mary, we're live in the Medfield neighborhood. All quiet here at this hour, but earlier, the shooting of a teen disturbed the peace. A daylight shooting in North Baltimore with a 16-year-old boy shot. The scene unfolding on Edge Hill Avenue at 41st Street in the Medfield neighborhood. Residents looked on as detectives looked for clues.
It's extremely disturbing. It's not a shock to me. I mean, more recently in this neighborhood, maybe more shocking because the neighborhood has changed a lot in the last 3 decades.
Police say it happened just after 2 p.m. as students, neighbors say, could be seen walking home. When officers arrived, they found the boy with what police are calling non-life-threatening gunshot wounds. The gunfire erupting.
I'm imagining it's probably another teenager that shot him with some kind of beef.
Just a few feet away from Rose Zeska's front door.
Any kind of violence that happening that close by is concerning. I mean, even if it was targeted towards somebody else, it's still close by. You don't know if there could be a stray bullet or something.
No details yet on exactly what led up to the shooting, and for now, no suspect information. Meantime, the 16-year-old boy, one of the latest young victims in the city, involved in a shooting.
City Council Resolution 23-0195R.
The Baltimore City Council recently passed a juvenile crime resolution that aims to get a grip on the troubling trend. The resolution, passed by the City Council in October.
Second, those in favor, please say aye.
Calls for several leaders, including the Baltimore City Police Commissioner, City Schools Police Chief, and the Director of the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, or MUNSE, to come together to discuss juvenile crime, what's driving it, and solutions. But back on Zeska's block, concern over another young victim.
I think that's sad, you know? I mean, what reason is there to shoot a 16-year-old boy?
Well, just minutes after this shooting, police responded to an area hospital for a call of a walk-in shooting victim, a 17-year-old male. Police working now to see if that shooting is connected to this case. We're live tonight. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. Well, Senate President Bill Ferguson is hosting a town hall on juvenile crime and public safety in Baltimore next week. State lawmakers representing South Baltimore and DJS Secretary Vincent Schiraldi will be among the panelists. Now, this comes as DJS is facing questions about how it keeps track of children in its system. The department has 14 staff members for more than 100 kids, a ratio of about 1 to 9. Those not at a DJS facility are often under home monitoring, but we have seen children on home monitoring involved in violent crime in recent months, including 2 of the 5 suspects in the Brooklyn Day mass shooting. One Baltimore mom tells Fox 45 News her 17-year-old son was placed on home monitoring this summer after committing a robbery. But that didn't keep him home or out of trouble. She says her son violated terms 3 times, but DJS wouldn't take him back even after she filed an emergency appeal.
They told me down DGS today that they can't keep kids down there. And I asked why. They said because it's the rules, it's the laws.
While Governor Wes Moore has called Schiraldi a reformer, Schiraldi himself is facing criticism for his belief that young people should be kept out of the adult prison system until they turn 25. When Harford County family tells Fox 45 News they heard that argument used in court during sentencing for a teen convicted of murdering their daughter in 2019.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing because I was wondering what was going to be their defense. And all it was is talking points from Annapolis.
Well, tonight that family is taking their concerns directly to Governor Moore in the hopes others don't suffer a similar tragedy. Fox 45's Vincent Hill joins us live with their calls for action. Vincent.
Yeah, Kai. Well, this one-page email landing on the desk of Governor Moore today asking him to do more about holding juveniles accountable.
I asked a million times, why, God, why?
Robin Helena Foster with a message to Governor Wes Moore.
Dear Governor Moore, my name is Helena Foster, and I am Brittany's mom. On 7/2/19, my life changed forever. My daughter was stalked, robbed, and murdered, execution style, by 2 repeat juvenile offenders, Charles Anderson and Danielle Morris.
The accused killer, Charles Anderson, 17 at the time, released after previously committing an armed robbery.
Look at her in the end there. 6 months later, he robbed and murdered my daughter.
Executed.
Oh, isn't that beautiful of her? Yeah, the father and daughter dance.
At Anderson's sentencing this past Friday.
Charles got 2 life sentences.
But up for parole in 30 years. Although the current juvenile laws were not in effect in 2019, Anderson's attorney bringing up the discourse over juvenile crime going on in Annapolis right now.
I believe that the judge was a little lenient with him because of what that attorney said and what Annapolis is saying about the brain and all that bull crap.
Referring to DJS Secretary Vincent Schiraldi's longstanding idea that the brain is not fully developed until 25. A point of contention in her email to the governor, saying her daughter was given a death sentence.
We need to grow up and use common sense laws.
The email ends with a plea to the governor for laws to be created immediately to hold juveniles accountable. Fox 45 reached out to the governor's office for a response to the email, but we have not yet heard back.
Here's her at her senior prom.
Meanwhile, the Fosters are optimistic they'll hear back.
Here's her with some of her friends at the prom.
But if given the chance. What would your message to the governor be?
My message to the governor would be is to have a good plan for violent offenders, for juveniles. We have a right to be protected, to walk down the street, to go into a mall and shop, to put your groceries in your vehicle out of the grocery store without being carjacked and a gun stuck to your head.
My message to the governor is I'm sick and tired of hearing about there's a problem. You need to change it soon. You've got to quit waiting because it's getting worse.
And if you'd like to see that entire email to the governor, you can find it in the link to the story on our website, foxbaltimore.com. In the control room, Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Vincent, thank you. If you feel your juvenile crime concerns aren't being heard, you can reach out to your lawmakers. House Speaker Adrian Jones and Senate President Bill Ferguson are two of the most powerful lawmakers in Annapolis. Their phone numbers and email addresses are on your screen.
And that brings us to our question of the day. Do you trust Bill Ferguson and Adrian Jones to protect your family? So far, 97% of people who voted say no. You can head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
Fox 45 News is hosting a town hall on public safety next week, and we invite you to join us. City Councilman Eric Costello and mayoral candidate Sheila Dixon will be on our panel. It takes place Wednesday, December 20th at 7 p.m. at Leadenhall Baptist Church.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 10, a man is shot with his own gun, and now U.S. Marshals are looking for him. How this victim turned into a suspect and now a fugitive in tonight's Maryland's Most Wanted. A local Jewish community rallying together after they say somebody vandalized their synagogue during Hanukkah. Why they're calling it a hate crime and how they're standing against it.
We're getting ready for a warm-up this weekend, but the next weather maker could have an impact on your plans. I'll let you know just how warm it gets and the timing of our rain.
The Maryland Public Service Commission will allow BGE to raise rates, but not as much as the company had hoped for. How much more you'll be paying in 2024. The Maryland Public Service Commission approves a BGE rate increase. That happened today. The increase will take place over 3 years for a total of just under $408 million. That is less than the $602 million BGE had asked for. Now, the commission approved the utility company's proposed budget of $120 million associated with the controversial conduit deal it made with Mayor Scott last year. However, the PSC says that will be subject for review in the future. The commission raised a number of concerns with the deal, saying it's not clear whether the agreement will benefit ratepayers in the long run or just end up costing them more money. So what does it all mean for you? In 2024, on average, electric customers can expect their bills to go up about $4 a month. If you are a gas customer as well, tack on another $10 a month. So that means if you're getting your gas and electric from BGE, it'll be about $14.51 more every month in 2024. By the end of the year, you will have paid BGE $174 more than usual. Now, the average increases do go down in the next 2 years. By year 3, that number goes down to about 34 cents a month for electric customers, $2.80 for gas customers. Now, Fox 45 News is hearing from residents who say they want more transparency.
That's $14 a month during a time when inflation is really high. I would like to have more information about what kind of safe and reliable service that's going to lead to.
I would like to have more communication about these rate services, of course, knowing what is it going to do and how is it going to, with this investment, be better for their customers.
Well, obviously, I'd like to know why. It's always good to keep expenses low, so the prices for gas and for electricity preferably would need to be lower.
Well, BGE responded to the rate hike in a statement saying, in part, the order ensures that BGE can continue to provide safe, reliable, and affordable services to our customers while laying the foundation for the grid of the future. We understand the importance of balancing the needs of energy affordability with the advancement of our grid infrastructure transformation. Residents and city leaders alike spent the week urging the Public Service Commission to reject the rate hikes. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor shows us how we got here.
With winter weather here and temperatures dwindling down, your BGE bill is likely already on the rise.
What do you think about your current BGE bill?
It's crappy. Poopy, as I say.
I think it's ridiculous.
Not good, and finding out that they want a rate hike, that really hurts.
In a struggling economy, those struggling to make ends meet,
People can't afford food.
anxious and outraged by BGE's calls for a $602 million rate increase, costing customers an additional 5% every year over the next 3 years.
We're retired, and so it's tough, and everybody wants more money all the time. And, you know, it's just not fair.
I hope that the Public Commission will sort of put a no on that.
According to BGE, the proposal would pay for vital investments in aging infrastructure, such as investments in Baltimore City's underground conduit system, which BGE was given broad control of earlier this year. Mayor Brandon Scott fast-tracking the multi-million-dollar contract.
I made a commitment to always do what's in the best interest of the residents of Baltimore.
Despite 2 voting board members sitting out in protest.
The way that this entire situation has been handled is nothing more than a power grab and move that suits the interests of private industry.
Other BGE investments include outdoor gas regulators, initially required for all residents, but following more pushback and protests. The PSC ultimately ruling residents should get to choose whether they want the regulators or not.
And they're using their influence to bully and to just go through neighborhoods and completely dismiss our rights. And that is not okay.
Many city officials agreeing. In front of City Hall Tuesday, Councilman Antonio Glover and Zeke Cohen making a last-minute plea to the PSC, calling on them to deny BGE's rate hike request.
The multi-year rate plan, if approved, is a blank check from ratepayers to BGE to wreck our planet.
BG&E wants to raise the rate increase on the very same people that helps makes Baltimore thrive.
Some of whom say paying any more than what they're paying now could price them out of living in the city.
You can only get so much blood out of a turnip. It's just, sometimes there just isn't any more.
We've talked about like moving to Delaware, and a lot of people that I know, family members, have considered moving from Baltimore because the taxes just keep going up and up, it seems like, on everything.
Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Well, you can see more on today's decision from the PSC and the debate leading on up to our website. Go to foxbaltimore.com for more information.
A struggle over a gun on the streets of Baltimore ends in a shooting. I'm Alexa Ashwell. On Maryland's Most Wanted, how this victim turned into the suspect and now a fugitive.
The impeachment inquiry of President Joe Biden and the business deals of his son. I'm Christine Frizzell with a look at the many pieces of this puzzle and how they all fit together.
After a few cool days, we are finally getting ready for a weekend warm-up. Tomorrow, we're looking at high temperatures reaching the upper 50s. We'll stay in the 50s on Saturday and Sunday, but on Sunday, we have our chance for rain. I'll break down the timing and let you know how it could impact your weekend plans in my Weather Authority forecast.
We are liking the thought of mild weather as we enter the winter season. Here's a live look at Towson. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Hunter Biden's business deals have been making headlines for years, coming to a head with the second federal indictment just this month.
Investigators into both Hunter Biden and his father, President Joe Biden, are intensifying on Capitol Hill. National correspondent Christine Frizzell has the latest.
What did the Bidens do to receive the tens of millions of dollars from our enemies around the world? That's a simple question.
A simple question, so far with no simple answers. Though Capitol Hill Republicans for years now have been collecting evidence related to dozens of deals Hunter Biden made along with millions of dollars that accompanied them, including $6.5 million from Ukraine. The Ukrainian energy company Burisma hired Hunter Biden to serve on its board. State prosecutor Victor Shokin, who is investigating Burisma, was fired at the behest of Joe Biden, who threatened to withhold aid to the country and appeared to brag about it years later.
I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting $1 billion. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired.
Other deals included companies in China, Russia, and Romania. Deals which required Hunter Biden to report details under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, or FARA, which he did not. Years of money coming in also meant millions owed in taxes, which Hunter Biden has since paid, but which two IRS whistleblowers said he didn't for years, also alleging their own work was stymied by those trying to protect the Biden family.
Prosecutors concealed contents of Hunter Biden's laptop from investigators. DOJ slow-walked steps to include interviews, serving document requests, and executing search warrants.
Just last week, Hunter Biden was handed a second indictment, charged with 6 misdemeanor and 3 felony tax offenses, following the first one in September for lying on a form to purchase a firearm. Those charges being fought by the younger Biden and his attorney. All of this is playing out as House Republicans just voted to make the impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden official. The White House called the move purely political.
They've decided from the moment that he took office that they were going to impeach him. And now what they've done is wasted millions and millions of taxpayer dollars on a fishing expedition trying to drum up an excuse for it.
A contentious battle expected to heat up just as President Biden fights for a second term in the White House. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzell.
And today we asked you if you think an impeachment inquiry into President Biden is justified. Voters from more than 70 cities weighed in. 88% of them said yes. Damaged signs at a Baltimore County synagogue now being investigated as a hate crime. Coming up, the outrage and response from the Jewish community.
And federal lawmakers threatening to pull funding for Harvard University. Their frustration over the university president's comments about protests on campus. A Hanukkah week act of vandalism weighing heavily on the Baltimore area Jewish community.
Signs supporting Israel and calling for the release of hostages held by Hamas were ripped to pieces in front of a Baltimore County synagogue.
I don't know who would want to be out in that weather, on Sunday night. It was nasty out, so, it took somebody that was nasty to come out in nasty weather and do that.
Well, this vandalism comes amid thousands of anti-Semitic acts across the world in response to the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas.
And tonight we have team coverage of the fallout on American soil.
Kayla Gaskins has the latest on university presidents facing backlash, but we begin with Amy Simpson and the show of resiliency after those signs were ripped apart.
This happened right at the city-county line, really in the heart of the Baltimore region's Jewish community. And these signs outside of the synagogue today replaced after being slashed.
Coming off of Park Heights, I went to Slade, driving past every morning. Can't miss the sign.
Edwin Chittum first saw the damage around 6 a.m. Monday.
Just the way they were cut, you could tell it was some kind of sharp object.
Even before sunrise, the facilities and operations coordinator at Baltimore Hebrew congregation.
It's a terrible thing.
Knew it was nefarious.
I don't know who would want to be out in that weather, on Sunday night. It was nasty out, so, it took somebody that was nasty to come out in nasty weather and do that.
The signs outside of the synagogue, which were emblazoned with two messages.
We stand with the people of Israel and bring the hostages home.
Slashed. The congregation's rabbi pulling them from a trash bag today. Tattered.
It was very disturbing getting the phone call. I have to be honest, given the atmosphere in this country, it was disturbing, not totally shocking.
And telling a story of their own.
I think it's calling attention, A, to the impingement on our rights as American citizens to express our feelings and our views.
Rabbi Andrew Bush says it's possible vandals were trying to send a message as this hateful act comes during Hanukkah.
I think someone clearly slashed with some anger.
But Baltimore's tight-knit Jewish community.
This campus, this shul, is both in Baltimore City and Baltimore County.
Showing solidarity today.
Every year during Hanukkah, the candles that we light during the holiday are meant to represent the bringing forth of light into darkness.
The synagogue very publicly unveiling an exact replica of those signs on this busy corner where the city meets the county.
You can destroy our signs, but you can't destroy our community.
Denouncing the vandalism.
We bring light into the world, refusing to be silenced.
Calling it both unacceptable and anti-Semitic.
Baltimore Hebrew won't stand for it.
Today, Baltimore County Police say they are investigating this as a possible hate crime. This year, between January and November, the department reporting a total of 125 hate bias cases. That's up from 93 cases in all of 2022. In Pikesville, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
We're following several other reports of anti-Semitic incidents across the world. In North Carolina, a man was arrested after drawing a swastika on the Women's Holocaust Memorial in Greensboro. The sculpture is based on a 1941 photo showing a group of Jewish women right before they were executed.
A 13-year-old in Ohio facing criminal charges after police say he crafted a detailed plan for a mass shooting at a synagogue. Police say they found the plan posted on social media.
German and Danish authorities announced the arrest of 7 people across Denmark, Germany, and the Netherlands accused of planning to carry out acts of terror.
The EU says anti-Semitic incidents are up more than 400% since the initial Hamas attack, and the FBI says it's working around the clock to identify and disrupt any Hamas threats.
I see blinking lights everywhere I turn. Post-October 7th, you've seen a veritable rogues gallery of foreign terrorist organizations calling for attacks against us.
All of us have also seen a particularly sharp increase in the volume and the frequency of threats against Jewish, Arab, Muslim, and Palestinian communities across our country.
Authorities say the threat could be heightened further if the Israel-Hamas conflict escalates or if there's significant violence in the United States that could inspire retaliation.
That brings us to our question of the day, our national question. Are you concerned about a terror attack on U.S. soil? So far, 92% of those who voted say yes. To weigh in, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote and click on the Pulse tab. On Capitol Hill, lawmakers upset with Harvard's response to anti-Semitism are threatening to pull billions of dollars worth of federal funding and tax breaks. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has the story.
Each year, Harvard receives billions of dollars courtesy of the federal government through direct tax payments, tax breaks, and federal student loans. That money under threat by lawmakers upset with the school's apparent failure to address rising anti-Semitism on campus since the Israel-Hamas war broke out on October 7th. Florida Senator Rick Scott demanding an immediate vote on a bill to rescind federal funding from schools that peddle anti-Semitism or authorize, fund, or facilitate events that promote violent anti-Semitism. If passed, it would be a hard blow to universities. Scott's bill is a direct reaction to last week's hearing in the House, where the presidents of Harvard, UPenn, and MIT fumbled through whether or not calling for the genocide of Jews was against their university codes of conduct.
The world watched and the world heard
their answers in horror.
UPenn's President Liz McGill resigned amid the backlash following the hearing. Harvard and MIT's presidents will keep their jobs for now. House lawmakers planning to introduce their own bill to defund institutions like Harvard over the issue. On Wednesday, the House passed a bipartisan resolution condemning the president's testimonies and condemning anti-Semitism at American colleges.
We clearly have tremendous work ahead of us, Mr. Speaker, to address this rot of anti-Semitism that is now rooted in our once premier higher education institutions.
Not all lawmakers voted for the measure.
We need to do everything the law allows to address anti-Semitism, Islamophobia. This resolution is not a serious effort to advance that cause.
Meanwhile, the Department of Education adding 6 more colleges to the growing list of schools under investigation for rising instances of anti-Semitism, anti-Arab, and anti-Muslim discrimination on campus. UCLA, Stanford, and Rutgers among those just added. Harvard and UPenn were already on the list. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
Well, tonight we are learning the embattled executive of the state's college savings plan quietly stepped down from his position last month. Anthony Savia's resignation from the Maryland 529 board follows a year of intense controversy for the state agency. In the year Savia was leading the program, account holders criticized him for poor communication and a lack of transparency over the missing funds in their accounts. The state treasurer took over, but that didn't bring new leadership, leading to outrage from Maryland families.
You've taken all of the bad decisions that were made prior to taking over, and you're just continuing them. I need this money in order to pay for the fall semester tuition, or else I'm going to be going into debt. And I'm going to see that the state is responsible for that debt.
Savia's last day was November 30th, marking just over a year with the agency. During that time, Fox 45 tried on a number of occasions to discuss the problems facing parents with Savia, but time and time again, our questions went ignored.
Why won't you answer our questions? You're just ignoring us. You don't think that these families have a right to know what's going on with their money?
Patty is in there, and she's got a statement for you.
So you're not taking questions again?
Correct.
And why aren't you taking questions?
Patty over there has a statement.
The treasurer's office confirms Savia's resignation this afternoon, but declined to comment when asked why he stepped down. A Baltimore man is shot with his own gun, then arrested on gun charges a month later, but he escapes prison and now